My family started putting pressure on me to get married when I was 27. I began going back to my hometown for blind dates after unexpectedly splitting from my 3-year partner. You like Willow so much. Can you really let her go? A buddy said. I'm not stupid, I sneered. She's good for dating and having fun, but wouldn't I be unhappy for the rest of my life if I really married her? A chilly but recognizable voice abruptly emerged from next to me. So that's the reason you dumped me first chapter as I was carrying my bags home? I occurred to bump into a guy who was leaving. He had vintage skull tattoos on his arms and a black casual jacket and high-top Martin boots. Knew him as the guitarist in Willow's band. I believe his name is abruptly. Powerful young man in his early 20s. I instinctively paused behind the hallway door and chose not to go. Willow eventually appeared behind him in a short, form-fitting outfit. Dreamily, she lit a cigarette and leaned against the wall. A few drops trickled down her long, moist hair, which draped loosely over her shoulders and wound past her sensitive collarbone. She touched his neck with her fingers as she went softly behind him a few moments later. "Why are you in such a hurry to leave?" she said in an enticing voice. Standing on tiptoe, she carefully leaned in and gave him a soft, hardly perceptible kiss as she spoke. She said, "Next time you come, big sis will wear a maid outfit to play with you." Makoto's gaze brightened. He kissed her back and held her waist securely. He paused for a time before saying, "You're so playful. I'm afraid I'll end up dying in your hands sooner or later." Willow yanked at his lapel as they were entangled, attempting to yank him back into the room. But Makoto seemed a little nervous, and murmured, "Willow, later, I have a performance engagement." "So heartless," Willow muttered, taking a step back from him, half coquettish, partly sulky. "You just called me baby and now you're heading out." "I'll be waiting for you," she remarked, cheerfully blowing Makoto a kiss instead of becoming. "Angry, I'll see you tomorrow." I emerged from behind the corridor door after he had gone. Willow didn't appear to anticipate my unexpected return. After a brief moment of shock, her look swiftly reverted to normal. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming back after giving her a quick glance?" I said. "It's too late." "I was worried. That phoning might keep you from sleeping." Willow didn't feel guilty despite the fact that the unclear red scars on her neck were still visible. She brought me inside after taking my arm. "George, I'm very hungry," as if nothing had occurred before. She pouted and turned on the TV on the couch. "Make me something to eat," she said. Willow scowled and said, "What's wrong?" after seeing that I hadn't moved in a while. Then, as if she had realized something, a sexy grin came to her seductive eyes. "Did you miss me?" She stood up, pressing herself against me. Her fingers gently made its way inside my waistline, as the vague smell of iris remained around my neck. She said, "Then why don't you have me first, and then eat her long, slender and agile fingers, which she had developed over years of playing bass, added a little something chilly as they moved over my skin." I pulled her away, exhausted, and closed my eyes. Willow's gorgeous appearance was the major reason I liked her physique when I chased her. But maybe it was that guy earlier or the fact that I had just gotten off a lengthy trip that made me feel so tired and depressed right now. I seldom ever rejected Willow. Her expression darkened somewhat after a moment of astonishment, and she said, "What's wrong?" I saw a dark mass on the carpet when I glanced down. It was a pair of ragged, ripped stockings. Clearly, Willow also noticed the stockings. Her eyes flashed with alarm. With haste, she stooped to pick up the stockings. She didn't give me another glance, but her lips quirked a little as if she wanted to say something. There was an uncomfortable quiet in the living room. I lighted a cigarette that I had taken from the pack. The menthol bead shattered with a sharp sound of crunching. She said quietly, "His lease expired and he had nowhere to stay, so I let him stay here for a night. There's nothing between us." I turned to face Willow. Our eyes locked, but the white haze blocked our ability to see each other's faces. But it was a weak excuse, and we both knew it. Willow's infidelity was not the first. She was undoubtedly flirty by nature. This is how she was when I first met her. Some of my roommates at the time were huge fans of rock music and insisted on bringing me to attend a concert by a well-known rock group. They said that getting tickets was difficult and that the band's female bassist was a complete beauty. I was never passionate and had no interest in rock music, That is, until Willow walked on stage. She was dressed in a form-fitting leather gown, and her thighs were slightly exposed by black garter stockings. Tension filled the laces that wound around her sensitive flesh, making them slightly protrude. Her curling red hair, which was loosely draped, looked especially stunning beneath the stage lights. She immediately became the center of attention. The hazy lights reflected in her amber-like pupils had a subtle charm as she raised her gaze. The most costly luxury was that face. It was my first time seeing a band play live, and the audience below the stage was going crazy with their yells, almost destroying the roof. Our gazes briefly locked as she scanned the rowdy throng before swiftly averting her gaze. I didn't hear any of the fantastic music that night. Since everything was quiet at the time, I could only hear my own heartbeat. I was one of many friends that hurried backstage to acquire contact details after the concert. It was the first time I proactively sought a female for her contact information after being single for 23 years. Willow boldly scanned everyone's QR codes without turning them away. All of her suitors had given up after a year, but I persevered. Maybe my persistence eventually moved her. I became Willow's lover after she accepted my confession.
However,
I was aware that Willow had never really liked me in all the years they had been together. Or maybe she liked me because I was giving and forgiving. She had cheated on me several times. I was always willing to forgive her as long as she provided a reasonable justification. She had repeatedly said that I wasn't her type, and that the only reason she was with me was because I was kind too. She also joked that she would dump me when she eventually met her true love. Only because I was always making compromises had our relationship endured throughout the years. I said, "You promised me you wouldn't cheat again." I stared at the ripped stockings with the Balenciaga brand in her palm and said in a raspy voice. Willow's eyes sparkled with a hint of mocking. She responded, "You believed that when I was just joking without feeling ashamed." "Can't take it," she murmured with contempt in her eyes as she snorted bitterly and removed the cigarette from my fingers. "If you can't, we can break up." She has told me this several times before. She eventually figured out how to control me since she knew I couldn't bear to leave her. She was aware that I would be powerless when she stated this. "Tired?" I murmured, turning my head. "I'm going to sleep." Willow took hold of my sleeve and scowled. Biting her lip, she murmured, "George, please don't push me." After prying her hand away, I returned to my room. Soon after, there was a loud slamming of the door outside. Willow was gone. I knew she was upset. After all, I had never previously treated her with such an attitude and had always appeased her. Flipping over, I pulled out my phone. My mother had mentioned me in a message on the family group chat. "You're 27 now, but I've never hurried you before. It's time to consider getting married. The daughter of my coworker is a good person. I saw her, and she's also attractive. Why don't you visit her again during the holidays?" After then, I opened a mail from my supervisor. "George, the branch office is now in need of personnel. It's a waste of your skills to remain a deputy manager. Would you want to work as a manager at the branch? Starting a company will be difficult at first, but it is up to you." I was invited home for a blind date by my mother. In my hometown, the business had just built a branch. I truly had no reason to remain here, and the time and situation looked ideal. I let out a sigh. To be honest, I liked Willow a lot. She was gorgeous, had a fantastic physique, and we got along well in bed. Above all, she was crazy. Because I didn't have to worry about taking care of her or our future together. Being with her was simple. I was worn out when I initially began working and needed someone to help me decompress. But until I met Willow, I couldn't find anybody that fit my typical appearance. While I worked diligently for my profession, she spent her finest years with me, relieving a lot of my tension with her body. She was cautious in this regard, even if her interactions with men were unclear. I had heard that, before dating her, each male she dated had to provide a recent 3-day health certificate. I was never concerned about illnesses since I always took measures. She was the most ideal lady for me, and I doubt I will ever find another one. I can't do anything, however. Dating is one thing. Another is getting married and starting a family. I thought Willow was great. However, I was also well aware that she wasn't a good life partner. The moment has come for me to decide. Chapter 2. All night long, Willow did not return. She didn't show up before me in the days that followed. She didn't answer any of my calls or texts. Simply got a red exclamation point when I tried again. I was barred by her. This was not the first time it had occurred. Willow was an expert at keeping quiet. Every time, I had to be modest and persuade her for a long time before she would be kind to me. However, this time I had no time to placate her, since I was too busy turning in my work. My phone rang unexpectedly that evening when I was making travel arrangements to return to my hometown. Willow received a call from a buddy. Men and women were constantly joking and laughing on the other end of the phone, and the loud music was deafening. "George, Willow is intoxicated," they said. "Could you just come get her?" Willow enjoyed visiting pubs and nightclubs. Although her family was well off, she didn't use the band as a source of income. Rather, it was a passion. However, she seldom ever returned home, even on vacations. She said that there were too many regulations at home when I questioned why. This was the type of free life she liked. Regardless, her grandpa lavished her with affection and provided her money on a monthly basis. She'll want more time to pursue her passions. We had nothing in common, thus Willow had no aspirations for her profession. She never appeared interested when I told her about landing a project or being promoted at work. At one point she mocked, "The idea of working yourself to death for such a little monthly salary, which wasn't even sufficient to purchase a bag for herself." I was aware that we were essentially different individuals. We didn't have any interests outside of physical compatibility. I just loved her body. I didn't give a damn about her spirit. She was just used to my tolerance and disregarded my inner world. Maybe it's better this way so that none of us will be harmed when we part ways. After giving it some consideration, I responded, "Okay," hung up, and peered out the window. The city seemed much more magnificent at night than it did during the day. All of the stars in the sky are obscured by the thousands of lights and the never-ending traffic and other illuminations. I took a quick look at my ticket, which said the day after tomorrow at 8 a.m. I let out a sigh. To be honest, I didn't want to end things that quickly. In bed, Willow and I really clicked. I had intended to have a last liaison with her, but I was under pressure to switch businesses these days. I felt a little guilty as I slapped my lips, but there was nothing I could do since the chance had arrived. Willow was having a great time drinking with her bandmates when I got to the pub. Men and women of all backgrounds all had the tendency to dress in avant-garde and stylish ways. It makes sense why Willow enjoyed spending time with them. I remembered Willow's contemptuous remark, "You're only 27," as I glanced down at my own. Shoddy clothing. Give up being a miser and saving money every day. Look at your attire, it's so outdated and completely out of style. This kind of living is really pointless. You ought to travel more and experience new things. Take a look at our band's attractive members. Which one is tattoo-free? Seems like I'm requesting your life when I ask you to have my name permanently inked. Don't be too near to me while we're out. I'm ashamed to admit that you're my lover." Regaining my composure, I stood outside the mob and looked directly at Willow. She swiftly averted her gaze and pretended not to see me. With her whole body pushed close against Makoto, Willow's face was flushed. She remarked in a sticky voice, "Naughty boy, have another drink." Makoto, on the other hand, smiled a little, uncomfortably, and appeared a little hesitant. Willow lifted her eyebrows the following instant, appearing beautiful yet cold. "It's not fun to drink like this," she remarked. "Would you mind feeding me?" When Makoto inquired, "How should I feed you?" Willow just stared up at him without saying anything. "Ack!" Makoto grasped it half a second later. His eyes gleamed with a touch of eagerness, tipped his head back, and drank his tumbler of caramel-colored whiskey. He then gave Willow a passionate kiss while hooking her chin. The two seemed to completely express their wishes as they shared a passionate kiss. Willow tipped her head back to meet his gaze, her eyes slowly becoming wet from oxygen deprivation. The lights cast a dreamlike color on the liquor that poured from the corners of their lips. It was a long time before they parted the silver thread that bound them together. Suddenly, everyone was applauding and yelling as the atmosphere surrounding us burst. I was aware that she was intentionally punishing me. I should be punished for ignoring her that day and failing to persuade her later. Everyone didn't see me until I approached Willow, at which point they all started to calm down. "What are you doing here?" Willow inquired blandly as she glanced up. I barely remembered the times when we were close by looking at her face. We had spoken about love while our emotions were high. Is it painful? A little, perhaps. How much does it hurt, though? Really not much. I always knew Willow was like this, after all. Erratic and always seeking thrills. Selfish, likely spoiled from infancy. Constantly focused on oneself and never taking into account the sentiments of others. Word by word I said, "Willow, you've gone too far." Willow gave me a glance. I felt as if she was staring down on me, even though it was obvious that I was standing and she was seated. She was still smiling mockingly, and with that careless face. "Too far away, you may end the relationship if it becomes too much for you. Nobody is preventing you." I merely stared at her without saying anything. The number of times she threatened to end our relationship was too numerous for me to count. 50 times or 100 times she had gone too far, according to several of her pals who lived close. Everyone had seen my treatment of her over the years, after all. "Don't say that, Willow," they murmured to her. "George is really kind to you." It really saddens him to say that I was, in fact, wounded. I closed my eyes in sadness as they became wet. After all, you have to go all the way if you're going to act. When that tear eventually dropped to the floor after much effort, I could see Willow's face shift. She gripped her wineglass tighter, but she remained silent and gave me a chilly glance. "All right, Willow," I murmured quietly the following second. "Let's break up then."
Willow's face immediately became as hideous as a volcano about to explode.
She seemed to be gritting her teeth as she smiled, but then she burst out laughing. She said, "Fine, George, you've grown some backbone, huh, all right? But I never go back to old flames. Just don't come begging me like a lapdog when the time comes, okay?" I gave a pained nod. Then, without giving her another glance, I turned and walked away. Willow didn't return home that evening. Overnight, I packed my bags and erased anything that had to do with her, including her contact details. I took the first aircraft back to my hometown early the next morning. I took out my SIM card and tossed it into the rubbish bag as the aircraft flew above the clouds. Chapter 3. I never got in touch with Willow again. I firmly pushed her out of my mind after creating the appearance of a wounded soul with a few late-night emo status updates on social media. My hometown was a normal place to live. I met the lady my parents chose for me and immediately adjusted to the new company's procedures. Even though she was just 25, the girl seated opposite from me had plastered-like makeup. She began talking non-stop as soon as she sat down. "I believe that earning money to support one's family is the most important thing for a man," she remarked. "According to my ex-boyfriend, a guy ought to spend his earnings on his partner. Men will become evil when they have money, thus the wage card must be given up after marriage." In order to marry me and put my name on the home deed, my ex-boyfriend claimed he would be prepared to pay a dowry of 880,000 yuan. After all, I need some protection as a woman marrying into his family. He said that because reality is fundamentally uneven, males who advocate for gender equality are all chauvinists. Men cannot give birth to women. Women must have children. I thought I had to keep my composure and not put myself on her level as I listened to her rambling while grinning and holding my coffee cup. "Then why didn't you marry your ex-boyfriend?" I said, nodding. She stammered, stunned, because my ex-boyfriend said our personalities weren't compatible. Still grinning, I added, "Miss Xu, your ex-boyfriend was mistaken, in my opinion. Ladies should be the beneficiary of any insurance after marriage, in addition to receiving the wage card. In my opinion, if I'm ready to get married, I should offer the lady the largest dowry I can afford and have the home registered in her name. Would you be satisfied, Miss Xu?" "Really, Mr. George," I groaned and got up, saying, "Unfortunately, Miss Xu, our personalities may not mesh well, in my opinion. Stop doing this." I turned and walked away. My mother had introduced me to a number of possible mates after I had been back home for so long. Some of them were really very good. However, it's difficult to appreciate little streams after seeing the immense ocean. I had lost interest in people after a bad romance, until a work meeting. this condition persisted. The mood was serious as everyone came early and huddled around the meeting table in silence. "What's going on?" I asked the deputy manager next to me in a hushed voice. "Has anything occurred at the business? The old chairman's daughter is coming." He leaned down and whispered. "She's reportedly here to get experience. She will seize control of the whole gang and bypass her brother if she passes the exam. Additionally, don't undervalue her just because she's a woman. This woman, a Harvard graduate, acts boldly and decisively. She launched her own financial business after graduating and quickly earned $3 million. Women like her are difficult to deal with, so use caution. Pay attention to what you say to her." Soon after, a lady entered the workplace dressed in a black strapless mermaid dress. The outfit accentuated her form by hugging her contours. Over that, she wore a black women's jacket casually. Her coat was taken by someone behind her as she entered. The sharp click of her high heels on the floor stopped. I glanced up, and she immediately caught everyone's attention. At first sight, it seemed as if her presence had caused the room's air to become motionless. She looked in all directions. The air started to flow again with a refined and alluring aura as soon as her fingertips touched the table. I didn't realize her eyes were a clear crescent until I took another look. She had a slim neck with a few hairs falling by her ears, and her jet-black long hair was carefully wrapped up. She was just as gorgeous as Willow. Others found it difficult to recognize her look at first sight because of her powerful aura. "Sorry, my flight was delayed, so I'm late." After admitting her error, she took a seat at the head of the table and said, "My name is Anna, and I will be the company's general manager going forward. I've previously looked at the company's financial accounts and basic data. I would want each of you to provide me with a brief report on your work accomplishments over the last year and the projects you are now working on." Starting with the deputy manager, department heads anxiously started their reports one by one. Anna, who pointed out every effort to hide information, was, as reported, an elite. "I dislike ambiguous statements and being duped," she said. "I'm hoping we can communicate well, but if not, I'll think of other ways." Despite the fact that she obviously didn't slap or reprimand anybody, cold perspiration sprang on everyone's backs. My hands were still a little wet as I got to my feet. Thankfully, I was well prepared, and I produced some very excellent work during the preceding 12 months. My confidence increased as I spoke more. My pride in the most significant aspects of my life are my education and work. In these areas, I never lie to myself. I saw a glimmer of gratitude in Anna's eyes, but she didn't stop me. I stopped signaling that I was done after a moment. "George, right?" she responded with a nod. "Not too awful. Everyone should report their work using this standard going forward."
Oh,
Everyone's workload has risen since Anna came. She negotiated several quality projects and removed numerous unnecessary duties and substandard assets. Although everyone put in more and more overtime, their pay rose in tandem. An overbearing female CEO like Anna piqued the curiosity of all the male coworkers. I'm not sure what went into these two old hands. Perhaps they've seen too many short plays about female CEOs online, but one morning in front of everyone, one of them dubbed the boss wife and threatened to give him an annual membership card if he was penalized. Another attempted to firmly pin Anna against the office wall that afternoon. That morning, the first one was let go. That day, the second one was transported straight to the police station. After that, the coworkers all behaved themselves, although you could still hear them talking about her during lunch breaks. Befooled by her looks, I heard she's never even had a boyfriend. It's not possible. Have you seen too many dramas on TV? You had to be fooling me, a lady like her with her face and physique. It would be like to thinking I'm Napoleon, to think she's unmarried. As I listened close by, I grew intrigued. Chapter 4, I started showing up in front of Anna on a regular basis. I would ride the same elevator with her 3 days a week since she always got to work 30 minutes early. It was generally just the two of us back then. Just welcomed her, assisted her in pressing the elevator buttons, then moved away without saying anything. Then without fail, I'd go grab a cup of coffee. Every lunchtime. It was also the time she often arrived for coffee. In order to avoid running into her in the break room before she got there, I would make sure she could see me. She would sometimes stop by my desk on her way out while I was working extra. "I've noticed you've been working overtime a lot lately," she said, pausing when she spotted me working overtime for the 17th time. "Is anything wrong?" I glanced up in apparent amazement. I gave over the paperwork after a brief moment of hesitation, saying, "I recently took over a new project, but there are some assets in the company whose risks I'm unsure about, so I have to study them more." Naturally, Anna took a seat next to me. Then she murmured quietly, "Let me have a look." She had an ineffable, delicate appeal and a slight rose scent. "I think this project is feasible," she added, nodding. "Take a look at their 2023 financial statements. They are in a good financial position." She spoke with sincerity. I periodically asked some quite technical questions while paying close attention. I couldn't help but pucker my lips as I looked at her thoughtful features. Later, she queried inquisitively, "What's this?" while pointing to the little orange kitten in my palm. "It's a stress ball," I remarked, giving it a squeeze as I passed it across. "I pinch it to release pressure when I'm anxious or unable to solve problems. Anna, would you want to give it a try?" Her almond-shaped eyes sparkled as she grasped it tenderly and squeezed it twice, instantly drew back her naive face when she suddenly recognized something. "Finish up early," she remarked as she handed the orange cat back to me. "If not, people would believe that I am a cruel slave owner who makes workers put in extra hours all the time." I nodded, packed up my stuff, and headed downstairs with her. Raindrops pelted Anna as we went outdoors, blown by the wind. She took a step back, hesitating. I said, "Anna, didn't you bring an umbrella? After opening mine, should I lead the way?" She would have to cross the bridge to get to her vehicle since the company's parking area was across the street. Me a somewhat ashamed nod and moved beneath my umbrella, maintaining a safe distance from me. I tilted the umbrella closer to her side without hesitation. Rainwater soaked my shoulder as it went down the edge. Anna saw my move, looked up at my wet sleeve, and her face took on a somewhat conflicted expression. Then she leaned closer to me, her shoulder barely brushing my arm as she pushed her lips together. As we moved closer, the rain battered the earth. Her rose scent permeated the air as her warm body heat was gently transferred through our clothing. I hadn't gone very far when Anna pulled out of the parking lot. "You didn't drive today, did you?" questioned Anna as she slid down the window. I answered, chuckling uncomfortably, "Yes, I did forget to drive today." "Anna, don't worry. I'll simply take a taxi home." "Get in. I'll give you a ride," she offered. Spoke with Anna a lot throughout the road. She was a little taken aback to discover that we had similar tastes, even enjoying the niche movie The Holy Mountain. At first uninterested, Anna's expression gradually brightened. She literally drove by without braking when we got to my door. She realized just as I was about to remind her, sorry I wasn't paying attention to the navigation. I thanked her once again for giving me a ride home once the vehicle stopped. Anna just gave a nod. Her mouth opened slightly as if she wanted to speak, but she decided against it. "What's wrong, Anna?" She was asking, "Where did you get that little orange cat stress ball earlier? It's so cute." She seemed somewhat remorseful as soon as she uttered it, as if her calm and collected CEO persona was faltering. She just bowed her head and remained silent. After I laughed, I took the large orange cat out of my pocket and put it in her palm. I waved and replied, "Well then, Anna, see you tomorrow." Chapter 5. I grabbed a notepad from the table and watched Anna go from behind the curtain. In order to take advantage of this chance, I drove to work for the first time in a long time. Fortunately, the weather prediction for today was correct. It did rain. I opened the notebook that contained Anna's preference entries. About her was scarce. I had to put in a lot of work to locate her old-school social media account and meticulously record every information in order to get some insight into her preferences. She adored, for instance, the movie The Holy Mountain, which I had just seen previous night, and plump orange tabbies. There is no other option. Must make the additional effort if I want to win over a remarkable lady like her. I was about to lay down on the bed when my phone rang, and I grinned. The voice was distinct, even if the number was unknown. Willow's voice was icy. "A lot of your belongings were left at my house. Come grab it, otherwise I'll throw it all out." I did leave a few things behind when I moved out, but they were mostly space-consuming and worthless. I assumed Willow would have thrown them out right away due to her disposition. I was surprised when she called. Just throw them out, I replied. I am not in need of them. I stated that in a slightly contemptuous tone while leafing through the journal about winning Anna. On the other end, Willow was obviously not pleased. She hung up after a lengthy pause. This was how she was always, depressed and in need of consolation. However, I was no longer required to do so. I stopped thinking about it after banning her number. I was unable to use the same strategy today since I spent time with Anna yesterday. I don't usually leave work early, but tonight I went out for drinks with a buddy at a pub. We were both a little tipsy after a few rounds. You used to be so into Willow, and now you've suddenly broken up, my buddy said, squinting at me. Are you really over it? My buddies used to reprimand me for being too much of a simp and lacking self-respect while I was with Willow.
However,
I never gave it any consideration. I had to offer something in exchange if I was with Willow for her body. In addition, I made the choice to be a simp or not. What weakens me about that? She was only good for a fling, I murmured, setting down my drink. I'm not a moron. I didn't want to wed her and live a life of misery. I received a thumbs up from my pal. Gosh, you've got the correct attitude. You're right, you're above everything. Now that you've seen her at her finest. Then he stopped talking and looked shocked behind me, his face becoming pale. Am I seeing things, or have I had too much to drink? From behind me came a soft giggle that suddenly sobered me up and chilled my bones. I turned around rigidly and said, George, is this why you dumped me? Willow was resting against the wall, wearing a silky white shirt, her eyes cold. My buddy quickly left after displaying no loyalty. I almost expected Willow to murder me in the next second as she pulled me to an empty corridor and glared at me. I was the first to speak.
Sneered.
You in this place? You didn't come for me alone, did you? Willow tightened her jaw. George, if you don't have a mirror at home, you could at least use some water to see. Your reflection, couldn't you? The band and I arrived for a performance. I wouldn't have realized that I was only a toy for you for all these years if I hadn't happened to run across you. I was just joking around with a friend, was my prompt response. You are aware of my anguish. I also need to maintain my dignity. I looked away, but she made me turn to face her by yanking my ear. George, have you always thought I was stupid? Yes, I said quietly, releasing her hold on my ear. Willow, no matter. What? I did my best for you these past years, I said quietly.
What?
You are aware of it. You keep disappointing me, yet I don't regret anything. I didn't utilize you for nothing, even if I did. Didn't my youth make any difference? This is where we are now. Let's part ways amicably, at least. I was hesitant to use the phrase in love. Rather, I remarked, at least we had something good. Willow gave me a prolonged glance. She grinned just when I feared she might lose her temper. Still had the same beauty under the lights, but I felt nothing. After 1,000 days and nights, even the most breathtaking sight becomes monotonous. She said, George, you think too highly of yourself, she said with a little smile. Of course we'll split amicably. Did you think I would continue to hold on to you? Just keep in mind that I, Willow, dumped you, not you. Then, as if leaving something soiled behind, she turned and left. I silently sighed as I watched her back. Perhaps Willow was irritated by my abandonment since she had never experienced such a thing in her life. However, I didn't object if she felt better after thinking that way. Chapter 6. Anna remained later. Every day as I continued to work my customary long hours, on occasion, we even took the same ride home. The cool, crisp air of early winter had arrived, and as we passed through the city with its stream of headlights, people were bundled in coats, the chill seeming to increase the distance between everyone making us instinctively want to draw closer. We talked about work projects and what we'd been up to recently. I'd complain about people and things at partner companies, and she'd indignantly agree.
No.
Yeah, I think that person is really disgusting too. And we'd both laugh. Over time, I could sense her feelings for me growing. So on the day of the first snowfall, I decided to make a bold move. I asked her for some time off, and when she asked why I hesitated and said family matters, technically, this should have ended the conversation, but Anna frowned. Something wrong at home? Is there anything I can help with? I smiled awkwardly. No, it's just ... My mom's forcing me to go on a blind date, and I was stunned. It was rare to see such an expression on her face. I added, I'm already 27. My family has been pressuring me a lot. I kept putting it off, but I can't avoid it this time. After a long pause, Anna looked down and said, fine, but you know the companies? Really busy right now, so I can only give you, she pretended to check her watch, 2 hours. I think that's enough time for a date. All right, you have 1 hour and 59 minutes left. I wasn't lying to Anna. I really did have a blind date. My previous one's going nowhere. My mom was getting close to losing it. At this time, the person I was meeting had potential well-traveled. Professional, elegant, thoughtful, and respectful of others' opinions, without a hint of entitlement. I found myself interested and chatted with her a bit longer than usual. Halfway through, she went to the restroom, and I was playing on my phone when I felt someone sit down in front of me. I looked up, my words caught in my throat. It was Willow. She crossed her long legs and glared at me disdainfully. You broke up with me to go on dates with this kind of person. My smile faded. Weren't you supposed to be on tour with the band? Why are you still here? The schedule changed, she replied. You think I wanted to stay in this dump? I spoke firmly. I hope you can respect my date. She's a good person. Please leave and don't interfere. Willow's smile disappeared, her lips pressed tightly together. When my date returned, she was bewildered by the scene. Who are you, Willow? Ignored her seething. I'm his girlfriend. If you know what's good for you, leave. Hurried to explain. No, she's not. But Willow leaned in tightly, holding my arm. What do you need us to kiss right now to prove it to you? By the time I managed to push her away, my date was already storming off, her face full of anger. I was furious. Willow, what's your problem? We're over. Willow, lounging on the sofa, looked maddeningly smug. That was your decision. I never agreed. Dating isn't marriage, I shouted. It doesn't require both parties to agree. You even said you'd never go back on your word. I changed my mind, Willow said lightly, as if discussing what to have for dinner. I think you're good at taking care of me. I was comfortable with you, so I don't want to break up anymore. In that moment, all I could do was laugh out of disbelief. But I'm not comfortable. She retorted, You gotta have me at my best. What do you have to complain about? She raised her voice, drawing attention from the people around us. I quickly covered her mouth. Quiet Willow shook her head and freed herself from my grasp, shouting, After breaking up with me, you haven't met anyone better, have you? You know in your heart I'm the best you'll ever get. We were great together in bed. Instead of those other losers, why not? Her words abruptly stopped as a dark figure appeared beside me. I snapped out of it, seeing Anna still in her black fishtail dress from work, her brow furrowed. Weren't you here for a blind date? Why are you talking about sleeping together? I was utterly stunned. The plan had been for Anna to get jealous, but instead, Willow showed up and started causing trouble. And now Anna was here too. Willow stood up, annoyed, and faced her. I'm his girlfriend. Who are you to interfere? Anna calmly replied. I'm George's boss, and as far as I know, George doesn't have a girlfriend. Willow bit her lip, then snapped. He doesn't need to report to you whether he has a girlfriend or not. Oh, I see now. This is the new woman you've set your sights on? George, does she know how despicable you are? Are you planning to use the same tricks on her that you used on me, even though I was usually calm? This pushed me to the edge. Just as I was about to retort, Anna spoke first. Oh, so you're the dumped ex. Since George broke up with you, it means he doesn't like you anymore. Clinging to him won't work. Willow's face turned red with rage. Anna looked at me and said, Your time off is up. There's a meeting waiting for you at the office. Let's go. I couldn't care about anything else anymore. I spoke to Willow, enunciating every word. I don't know what's gotten into you, but Willow, during the years we were together, I owed you nothing. Got together willingly, and I never forced you. Still stand by my words. Let's part peacefully. Please don't bother me anymore. Willow wanted to say something, but after hearing me out, her eyes darkened, and she said nothing more. Anna tugged on my sleeve, pulling me away. In the car, Anna asked indignantly, Is that really your ex-girlfriend? I tried to change the subject. Didn't you say we have a meeting to attend? She repeated. Was that woman really your ex? Yes, I sighed, running a hand over my face, forcing a bitter smile. We were together for 3 years. I used to like her a lot. but she kept cheating. On me, and I just couldn't take it anymore. Part of why I went back home was because of our breakup. I was too hurt spending time with you recently. I glanced at Anna's expression, then added feeling downcast has helped me feel better, but I never expected her to come back to cause trouble. Anna looked at me seriously and said, "A girl like her doesn't deserve you. Don't let your heart soften. Cheating once means there'll be 100 times more. Her disloyalty shows she never truly loved you. Should find someone who'll love you wholeheartedly." I couldn't help the smile that formed on my lips, but I quickly suppressed it, keeping my voice sorrowful. But women like you are too rare. Where could I find someone like that? Anna's ears turned a soft shade of red, and she whispered, "Well, maybe I'm the only one who deserves you." Chapter 7. 3 days later, while I was drinking at a bar, Anna messaged me asking when I was coming back to work. When she said that line the other day, I was indeed taken aback, but I didn't want to rush things. I was serious about Anna, so we couldn't just stumble into a relationship like I had with Willow. A rushed beginning always ends in a rushed conclusion. Taking this situation as an excuse, I took some time off and went out with friends to relax. This bar was one of the fancier spots in the city, not too loud, with a band playing great music. I was enjoying the sight of attractive people dancing and drinking with my friends when the music suddenly stopped. After a moment, the bass began to play. "How long will I love you as long as the stars shine above you? If I could, I would love you even longer. How long will I need you as long as the seasons need time?" Soft melodic voice caught my attention, and I paused, looking up at the stage. There stood Willow in a tight leather dress, a silver necklace glinting around her neck. In that instant, the rowdy crowd and dim lights seemed to vanish, and all I could see was her with her eyes fixed on me. It was like our first meeting all over again.
Only this time.
It wasn't me who walked toward her. Willow slowly walked off the stage, approaching me. She said, "Want to add me on WeChat?" The whole crowd erupted with cheers, but I shook my head and sighed, "Why bother? I'm not undervaluing myself." I could see that Willow did have genuine feelings for me, but how much of that love was for who I am, or was it just because I had always doted on her, spoiled her, tolerated her? Maybe deep down she couldn't accept that the person she always thought of as her simp had dumped her. The crowd began to disperse, the music resumed, and she sat beside me, nudging me with a hesitant, almost appeasing look. "I thought about what you said the other day, and you were right. In all the years we were together, you never wronged me. You gave so much and I kept hurting you. It was only right for you to leave me." Her expression was conflicted. She seemed reluctant to speak, but she went on anyway, her voice shaky and uncertain. "If I change, if I start caring about you, if I stop doing anything out of line with others, ... could we ... Remembering her earlier vow about never going back, her face flushed bright red as she quickly looked down and said, "Could we get back together? I'm sorry for everything. It was all my fault." I looked at Willow in surprise. I almost thought she had been possessed by someone else. Proud, confident Willow, apologizing and asking to reconcile with me. I knew this wasn't her style. Someone must have put her up to this. I asked, "Who told you to do this?" Willow bit her lip. "My friends. After we broke up, they all told me I went too far and that I deserved a chase your man through hell moment." Her shame was reaching its limit as she asked again, "So, will you take me back? I'm way better than those blind date prospects. After being with me, how can they compare? And your boss, she seems so lonely ever talking about work. We've already been through 3 years together. We're the best fit." I stood up, finishing my drink in one gulp. "No, thanks for the offer. The song was beautiful, but getting back together isn't an option." The air seemed to freeze. Willow pressed her lips together, her expression blank. Why, Willow had a pair of beautiful, expressive eyes. Even when unhappy, they always seemed to glisten with emotion. It was rare to see her look so cold. I smiled, because ... I never go back. Chapter 8. I volunteered for a business trip, spending a week out of town. The project negotiations went well, but during dinner that evening, one of the high-ranking officials from the other company made me very uncomfortable. "George, how old are you?" You, now a middle-aged man, balding and full of condescension, asked me. Holding back my annoyance, I replied, "I'm 27. I don't have much life experience yet." He said, "At your age, how can you refuse a drink from your elders?" He frowned as he pushed. a glass toward me. I've met people like him before. If you don't do as they say, if you don't drink when they toast you, if they think you're disrespectful and ungrateful, they feel compelled to criticize you as if it will fulfill their mentoring. I used to work late and drink excessively at social gatherings for my job, pushing myself to the brink until I had a perforated stomach ulcer. The project we were discussing was significant. I knew it was a pivotal time for Anna and her capacity to take over the firm, even though the doctor had absolutely prohibited drinking. So one toast after another, I made myself drink in spite of the discomfort. Sweat started to accumulate in my palms as a result of the scorching feeling in my gut. My phone rang at that same moment. Was Anna? What's making it so loud? You still having dinner? You should go if you're full, since I've already messaged your supervisor. Gotta stop drinking. Even though I didn't want to remain, the hostile and inebriated guy persisted on keeping me there and making me chat. Having the ability is nice, but you also need to play the game. The agreement won't go through if you can't drink. Quit being so ambiguous. Get another drink. He gave me another glass, held my breath at the scent of booze. I pushed aside the glass. My stomach isn't feeling great, Mr. Zhang. You may have a drink with my boss instead. He's here. He roared and grabbed me by the collar. What are you acting so arrogant about? I signed a contract with you, and now you're not drinking. You're just a department manager. You bastard. Do you believe I'm not significant enough to you? He tried to impose a whole bottle on me by grabbing my collar. My stomach was already hurting, but fortunately, a few coworkers stepped in and held him to his chair. Watching him swear at me from his chair made my heart race. Due to the mental and physical stress, I was unable to contain myself any longer. Everything I had eaten spilled over him when I puked. I produced a sound that sounded almost like I was becoming a zombie. As he sat there, stunned, Mr. Zhang's meal was still hanging off him. My coworkers were also taken aback and retreated. I discovered my phone call was still open when the deputy manager hurriedly waved at me. Anna most likely heard everything I said, starting with my enormous, repulsive wretch. I let out a sigh. I staggered out, taking up my phone nervously. Hardly able to stand, I was met with silence. No one responded, and Anna wasn't present. When I got back to the motel, I was throwing up all over again until my stomach was reduced to sour bile. I fell to the bed, exhausted. I hoped Anna would at least give me a call to see how I was doing. However, she didn't. Perhaps she was furious that I had put such a valuable customer in danger. I wanted to sleep, but I was unable to do so. I knew this was nothing new as I lay in the dark and stared at the ceiling. I was used to it. My relatives never helped me. I took out student loans to attend college and worked part-time jobs to make ends meet. I had to put up with clients who were irrational while doing errands and delivering meals. I never made much, however. Now that the money was genuine, at least things were better. As the minutes passed, Anna had not responded. Grinning cruelly, I rolled over. What more was there to comprehend? She was undoubtedly enraged after this debacle and threatened to terminate me if she didn't have her way with the customer. Only self-deceiving idiots believe that someone still cares about them when all the evidence points to the opposite. I had no intention of becoming that idiot. My mother suddenly sprung to mind. I had seldom seen my father since the day I was born. He seemed to be the epitome of all human vices. He was a frequent cheater, a gambler, and he only ever returned home to beg for money. He would hit my mom and sometimes me if she didn't comply. As soon as I was old enough to comprehend, I began pleading with my mother for a divorce. Everybody around us told her to get away from him. However, Mom would always cry and whimper while stating that she wanted me to have a complete family and that she would never, ever divorce him. At first, I didn't get it. How could she believe that it was better for me to remain with him when he treated us so badly? After a while, I understood that it had nothing to do with me. I was only an excuse for her not wanting to leave him. When he really wanted to go, she would panic, weep, and beg him to remain. But after she learned about his affairs, she would lash out, yelling and threatening to break up with him. My mother developed Stockholm Syndrome as a result of this never-ending cycle of suffering. Despite her hatred for my father, she was unable to live without him. And I was raised in the thick of that never-ending struggle. I understood from a young age that I would have to battle for my own destiny, whether it be in my relationships or my work. I would never see Willow again. No matter what promises they make, people never alter who they really are. After all, a simp gets nothing. I didn't want to experience the same tragedy as my mother. I didn't even know Anna, but did I truly like her? Perhaps I just like her beauty and how much more straightforward she seemed to be than Willow, even though I knew. These sentiments were fleeting. I was prepared to do all in my power to win her over. I had never felt so completely lost. Did I really desire this? I was startled out of my reverie by a tap on the door. I opened the door and staggered out of bed. Anna was standing there, her face pallid and her countenance tired after hours of tigers. Driving, however, all of her suppressed feelings appeared to flare up when she saw me, with fury taking the place of her worry. Anna bit her lip and held her garment hard. Why try to be tough when you know you can't drink? Drinking excessively, do you not give a damn whether you die or live? I was thinking. I interrupted her. But for you, this agreement is crucial. I didn't want to disappoint you at this important moment. How about you? You are important to me. I don't want it if it costs me you. Her voice trembled with the intensity of her feelings. She sniffed in an attempt to gather herself after realizing she may have spoken too much. Her voice returned to its customary coldness. I've instructed the business to end the collaboration. That individual will be banned from the business, and you won't have to see him ever again. She avoided my eyes and continued to stare down. Dawn is still 3 hours away. We're canceling tomorrow's events so you can sleep in. Next door is where I'll be. Come on over if you need anything. As if she had come all this way to speak those few words, she turned to go. I would be a fool if I didn't take action, right? Now, as she turned away, I bent down and grabbed her by the shoulders and pulled her into my arms. As our lips pressed together in a chilly, tender kiss, a subtle aroma of roses blended together. Anna, will you be my girlfriend? I said, grinning at her agitated look. Chapter 9. Compared to Willow, being with Anna seemed quite different. Although she wasn't a needy girlfriend. She was always there for me when I needed her and wouldn't leave, despite my best efforts to persuade her. She never said that she missed me, but she was always waiting for me when I got home, regardless of how late I was. The more time we spent together, the more I understood that there was a secret warmth underneath her cold appearance. I was really happy, but I was also terrified. Firm ground under my feet and a vast chasm beyond. It seemed like I was standing on the precipice of a cliff. I was worried that Anna would see that all I did for her was a well-crafted facade and uncover who I really was. I feared that she would find the true me repulsive. The temperature fell sharply after many snowfalls. I tried to make up for it to Anna by working harder and pushed myself till I eventually became sick because I felt bad. I remained at home by myself after taking a leave of absence from work. Anna and I didn't share a residence. The illusion seemed more realistic with distance. The middle of a feverish fog, I believed the doorbell had rung. After a few more rings, I pushed my eyes open, even though I thought it was a dream. Anna was standing there when I opened the door. She had a bag of medication in one hand and a thermal container in the other. Her long lashes were knotted with wetness, and her black wool coat was sprinkled with snowflakes. She replied, "You got sick and didn't tell me." She placed the container on the dining table after walking there. I prepared a bowl of porridge. "I'm not sure whether you'll like it." She moved closer, rising on tiptoe, to brush my forehead before I could respond, then scowled a little. Muttering in frustration, she sat on the couch and took out the medication. "What is the reason for your habit of refusing to take medication when you're ill?" "It's nothing serious, probably just a cold." "Is it the flu or a cold?" Anna attentively. "Read the directions on a prescription box before taking it out." I was in a fog as I gazed at her, recalling our first encounter. When she was looking over a report I had sent in, she had the same intent look. At one point we were so far away. I was simply a regular employee, sitting far away from her with a lot of people between us, and she appeared distant and sophisticated. And now, she was standing just in front of me, gazing worriedly at a little pamphlet with instructions. The living room's gentle orange light landed on Anna, who was wearing a fitting knit sweater that hugged her elegant shape and had her collar slightly open to show off her collarbone, which was softly sensuous. Her chilly makeup was softened by the warm light, which gave her a more delicate appearance. The echo bounced about in my mind, and I felt my heart skip a beat. I approached her and embraced her. She gave me a short embrace in return before snatching up a blanket and throwing it over my shoulders. "Don't do this, you're still sick," however. I gave her an even closer embrace while whispering, "What should I do, Anna? I believe my feelings. For you are becoming stronger." She sighed. "Didn't you like me before?" was another loaded question that left me stunned. "No, I mean," she tucked herself against my chest before interrupting me with a fit of laughing. "All right, let's quit describing, because I'm also becoming more and more infatuated with you." I was unable to explain the sensation. Reason has always been important to me, and I considered that emotions should be the basis for logical reasoning. I didn't enjoy losing command. It didn't seem so horrible anymore, however. Went into a deep, dreamless slumber after taking the medication. I was sweating profusely when I woke up, and my headache had abruptly cleared up. My first instinct as I got out of bed was to go find Anna and let her know I was feeling better. Anna. The next instant, I was standing at the study door, looking into Anna's complex eyes. The notebook in which I had noted all of her preferences was in her hand. Half of it was already turned through by her. Anna departed in chapter 10. She didn't quarrel with me and wasn't upset. She didn't glance at me again or say anything. I wanted to shout out to her as I followed her into the corridor, but I was unable to do so. Even though the cold was still bothering me, it didn't seem to matter. It seemed like the cold frost had crept into my heart. I was well 2 days later and went back to work. I went to the break room for coffee after working late as usual, but I didn't see her. As it happened, I wouldn't see her at all if she really wanted to avoid me. WeChat, where we used to communicate often, also stopped sending messages. She seemed to have forgotten me entirely. At least she hadn't fired me, which sometimes made me laugh bitterly. At other moments, I couldn't help but clench my teeth. It would have been preferable if she had slapped me with her rage. A brawl would have been preferable. However, I didn't search for her. Captured in the act, what more could be said? Would be no point in any explanation. I resumed my usual schedule of working alone and returning home alone. Before, it hadn't troubled me, but as I became used to being with someone, being by myself again seemed excruciatingly lonely. After somehow finding out about my split, Willow started to bother me. I sighed as she barred me at my door once again. "What would you like?" "Willow, I have said that I will not reconcile with you." Willow's silver earrings caught the light as she leaned against the doorframe. She arched an eyebrow. "Well, you're no longer dating. Why don't we try it again together? Get my face. Look at these legs, and look at this, and this. What does she have that I don't? You must like her." "But why?" I had no desire to argue. I said impatiently, "I simply like her." "What relevance does it have to you?" Willow chuckled, a hint of cold derision in her voice. "You're fond of her. Does she like you, though?" Biting her lip, she took a step closer. "The only version of you that she liked was the one you put on. However, I like you just as you are. She is quite different from you. Why would somebody pretend to feel anything?" She touched a nerve with her last remarks. My relationship with Anna had been based on deceit, and she was correct. However, my affection for her was genuine. What mattered was that Anna would no longer love me, as Willow had said. Being duped in that way was likely an experience she would never forget. George, we were meant for each other, like a siren singing. In the middle of the night, Willow's voice was seductive and eager to pull her victim into the depths. I was ready to reply when my phone rang out of nowhere. It was a WeChat message. When I glanced down, Anna sent it. I glanced up at Willow and said, "Can we meet?" What I said, "I won't get back together with you," spoke loudly and seriously while maintaining eye contact with her. "Willow, I don't love you." Chapter 11. Anne hadn't changed at all after they hadn't seen one another for a few days. There were no indications of sorrow or resentment about being duped. With her eyes downcast and her hands folded gently, the server removed her off-white wool coat to expose a black turtleneck sweater. "Did you use the same tactics on me as you did on others?" Anna said after a little pause. I assumed she would begin by asking why I had lied to her, but I was taken aback by this question and briefly lost my train of thinking. No, I said. I hadn't. I had never worked so hard to figure out someone's tastes, not even with Willow. Anna's brows seemed to loosen somewhat, but her face stayed the same. I dropped my voice to convey that I hadn't intended to mislead her, but I was unable to get the words out. I apologize for misleading you. You are quite justified in feeling outraged. I understand if you no longer want to see me, with a sigh. I went on. I can resign. Anna scowled a little and said quietly, That's not why I'm here. I've been reflecting over the last several days. I like you. I can't lie to myself. I still like you despite the fact that you lied to me. She spoke, seriously while looking down. But a phony friendship isn't going to endure. I didn't recognize for a long time that I wasn't attracted to you because you enjoyed a holy mountain, or because you took me skiing in Hokkaido. You never give up in the face of adversity, which is why I admire you. You're never influenced by extraneous forces, since you always have a clear strategy for your life and know what you want. I admire the aspect of you that speaks to my spirit. I've always thought that having similar interests is more significant than having similar pastimes. We are more than simply lovers. We are lifetime friends who follow the same road and never stray from it. Her golden eyes were fixed on me as she glanced up. George, I really like you. Can we both stop acting like this going forward? I want to be with you forever. I was taken aback. I had a lot I wanted to say, but when I opened my lips, it was all empty. No one had ever firmly selected me. I had given up on finding love because of my upbringing, thus often used strategies to win love. I believed that this was the proper approach and that it was acceptable. Around the globe, a lot of individuals are content to live together in a relationship. Only in books and films did true love exist like ghosts. No one had ever seen it, yet everyone said it was genuine. It was sufficient if you found someone with whom you felt at ease. I believed I was all right, therefore I didn't worry about love, until I heard that someone liked the true me, as she wanted for us to remain together forever. Willow wasn't like her. It was an insult to use my old strategies on her. All of my erratic feelings vanished at that instant, leaving behind a big void. All I could do was nod foolishly, even though I could have said a lot to please Anna. Okay, I promise you. Anna grinned. She seldom ever smiled, like a glimpse of spring emerging from ice melting in a frigid pond. According to her, then I forgive you. Chapter 12. Anna and I began to be really together. I stopped attempting to understand her preferences and instead adapted to her over time. I stopped trying to see the movies she liked. Rather, we would watch scary movies together while snuggling on the sofa after supper. She first gave off the impression of being tranquil, but that night she had a nightmare and woke up with a shock. Flinging herself into my arms and being silent for a while, she muttered, "Honey, can we stop watching horror movies?" Just as I was about to go back to sleep, we gave up red wine. I took her for a bijou drink at a wayside stand. She coughed and her cheeks became crimson since she wasn't accustomed to it. I just gave her a pat in return and chuckled. I subsequently learned that she had covertly purchased a large quantity of bijou at home in an attempt to increase her tolerance since I didn't want to lose. Willow stopped bothering me after she left. According to what I've heard, she got rid of her tattoos, dyed her hair black again, and went back to her home to be a good girl. Anna agreed to my proposal in the beginning of March. Willow insisted on meeting with me after somehow learning about the engagement. I made plans to meet Willow halfway up a hill with a view of the sea after talking it over with Anna. Below, birds circled in the skies as waves smashed against the cliffs. Willow, resting over the railing, was wearing a white dress. In an attempt to appear informal, she gave me a hot beverage and took a sip herself. "Long have you two even been together before getting engaged?" I laughed. "When you're with the right person, you don't need to wait long." She sneered, then stopped talking as she gazed out to sea. She finally said, "George, what about me? After playing with me, you became weary of me and threw me away. You're happy now, but what about me?" I answered, "You're being pursued by a lot of people. Why be concerned? You'll undoubtedly discover a decent dude. I patted her lightly and grinned. I gently responded, Willow, you never truly loved me, and removed my hand when she didn't return my grin. You wouldn't have repeatedly deceived me throughout our time together if you had. You're just upset that I broke up with you first. Willow sipped her drink gently, but she didn't answer. I returned the hot beverage to her. I hope you're happy. And this time, I mean it. I turned and walked away. After walking a considerable distance, Willow abruptly shouted out to me in a tremulous voice. I didn't stop, however, saying, But George, I really did love you. I returned her wave and continued to go. When my phone rang, it was Ana's message. I've become more tolerant. Let's settle it downstairs at the BBQ joint tonight. I smiled in response, saying, all right. The loser pays for the beverages. The sky in the distance seemed infinite, with sunshine peeping through the clouds. Was really springtime.